one would dare get hostile because we could squawk to Uncle Sam." "All you say is true," Adams agreed, "but there are going to be questions. It isn't just a matter of walking into Washington and getting recognition. They'll want to know about us, such as our population. What if Chuck has to tell them it's a total of 3 persons?" Cooper shook his head. "He wouldn't answer that way, Wes. He'd duck the question or give them some diplomatic double talk. After all, how can we be sure there are only 3 of us? We took over the whole continent, remember?" "You know well enough, Johnny, there are no other humans back here in North America. The farthest back any scientist will place the migration from Asia is 30,000 years. They haven't got here yet." "Maybe we should have done it differently," mused Cooper. "Maybe we should have included the whole world in our proclamation, not just the continent. That way we could claim quite a population." "It wouldn't have held water. Even as it is, we went a little further than precedent allows. The old explorers usually laid claim to certain watersheds. They'd find a river and lay claim to all the territory drained by the river. They didn't go grabbing off whole continents." "That's because they were never sure of exactly what they had," said Cooper. "We are. We have what you might call the advantage of hindsight." He leaned back against the tree and stared across the land. It was a pretty place, he thought. The rolling ridges covered by vast grazing areas and small groves. The forest-covered 10-mile river valley, and everywhere one looked, the grazing herds of mastodon, giant bison, and wild horses, with the less gregarious fauna scattered hit and miss. Old Buster, the troublesome mastodon, a lone bull which had been probably run out of a herd by a younger rival, stood at the edge of a grove a quarter-mile away. He had his head down and was curling and uncurling his trunk in an aimless sort of way while he teetered slowly in a lazy, crazy fashion by lifting first one foot and then another. The old cuss was lonely, Cooper told himself. That's why he hung around like a homeless dog. Except that he was too big and awkward to have much pet appeal, and more than likely his temper was unstable. The afternoon sun was pleasantly warm, and the air, it seemed to Cooper, was the freshest he had ever smelled. It was altogether a very pleasant place, an Indian summer sort of land, ideal for a Sunday picnic or a camping trip. The breeze was just enough to float out from its flagstaff before the tent the national banner of Mastodonia, a red, rampant mastodon upon a field of green. "You know, Johnny," said Adams, "there's one thing that worries me a lot. If we're going to base our claims on precedent, we may be way off base. The old explorers always claimed their discoveries for their nations or their king, never for themselves." "The principle was entirely different," Cooper told him. "Nobody ever did anything for himself in those days. Everyone was always under someone else's protection. The explorers either were financed by their governments, or were sponsored by them, or operated under a royal charter or a patent. With us, it's different. Ours is a private enterprise. You dreamed up the time unit and built it. The 3 of us chipped in to buy the helicopter. We've paid all of our expenses out of our own pockets. We never got a dime from anyone. What we found is ours." "I hope you're right," said Adams uneasily. Old Buster had moved out from the grove and was shuffling warily toward the camp. Adams picked up the rifle that lay across his knees. "Wait," Cooper said sharply. "Maybe he's just bluffing. It would be a shame to plaster him. He's such a nice old guy." Adams half raised the rifle. "I'll give him 3 steps more," he announced. "I've had enough of him." Suddenly a roar burst out of the air just above their heads. The 2 leaped to their feet. "It's Chuck!" Cooper yelled. "He's back!" The helicopter made a half turn of the camp and came rapidly to Earth. Trumpeting with terror, old Buster was a dwindling dot far down the grassy ridge. Chapter 3. They built the nightly fires circling the camp to keep out the animals. "It'll be the death of me yet," said Adams wearily, "cutting all this wood." "We have to get to work on that stockade," Cooper said. "We've fooled around long enough. Some night, fire or no fire, a herd of mastodon will come busting in here, and if they ever hit the helicopter, we'll be dead ducks. It wouldn't take more than just 5 seconds to turn us into Robinson Crusoes of the Pleistocene." "Well, now that this recognition thing has petered out on us," said Adams, "maybe we can get down to business." "Trouble is," Cooper answered, "we spent about the last of our money on the chainsaw to cut this wood, and on Chuck's trip to Washington. To build a stockade, we need a tractor. We'd kill ourselves if we tried to wrestle that many logs barehanded." "Maybe we could catch some of those horses running around out there." "Have you ever broken a horse?" "No, that's one thing I never tried." "Me either. How about you, Chuck?" "Not me," said the ex-ambassador, extraordinarily bluntly. Cooper squatted down beside the coals of the cooking fire and twirled the spit. Upon the spit were 3 grouse and a half-dozen quail. The huge coffee pot was sending out a nose-tingling aroma. Biscuits were baking in the reflector. "We've been here 6 weeks," he said, "and we're still living in a tent and cooking on an open fire. We better get busy and get something done." "The stockade first," said Adams, "and that means a tractor." "We could use the helicopter." "Do you want to take that chance? That's our getaway. Once something happens to it—" "I guess not," Cooper admitted, gulping. "We could use some of that .4 aid right now," commented Adams. "They threw me out," said Hudson. "Everywhere I went, sooner or later they got around to throwing me out. They were real organized about it." "Well, we tried," Adams said. "And to top it off," added Hudson, "I had to go and lose all that film, and now we'll have to waste our time taking more of it. Personally, I don't ever want to let another saber-tooth get that close to me while I hold the camera." "You didn't have a thing to worry about," Adams objected. "Johnny was right there behind you with the gun." "Yeah, with the muzzle about a foot from my head when he let go." "I stopped him, didn't I?" demanded Cooper. "With his head right in my lap." "Maybe we won't have to take any more pictures," Adams suggested. "We'll have to," Cooper said. "There are sportsmen up ahead who'd fork over $10,000 easy for 2 weeks of hunting here. But before we could sell them on it, we'd have to show them movies. That scene with the saber-tooth would cinch it." "If it didn't scare them off," Hudson pointed out. "The last few feet showed nothing but the inside of his throat." Ex-Ambassador Hudson looked unhappy. "I don't like the whole setup. As soon as we bring someone in, the news is sure to leak, and once the word gets out, there'll be guys lying in ambush for us, maybe even nations, scheming to steal the know-how, legally or violently. That's what scares me the most about those films I lost. Someone will find them, and they may guess what it's all about, but I'm hoping they either won't believe it or can't manage to trace us." "We could swear the hunting parties to secrecy," said Cooper. "How could a sportsman keep still about the mounted head of a saber-tooth or a record piece of ivory? And the same thing would apply to anyone we approached. Some university could raise dough to send a team of scientists back here, and a movie company would cough up plenty to use this place as a location for a caveman epic. But it wouldn't be worth a thing to either of them if they couldn't tell about it. Now, if we could have gotten recognition as a nation, we'd have been all set. We could make our own laws and regulations and be able to enforce them. We could bring in settlers and establish trade. We could exploit our natural resources. It would all be legal and above board. We could tell who we were and where we were and what we had to offer." "We aren't licked yet," said Adams. "There's a lot we can do. Those river hills are covered with ginseng. We can each dig 12 pounds a day. There's good money in the root." "Ginseng root?" Cooper said. "It's peanuts. We need big money." "Or we could trap," offered Adams. "The place is alive with beaver." "Have you taken a good look at those beaver? They're about the size of a St. Bernard." "All the better. Think how much just one pelt would bring." "No dealer would believe that it was a beaver. He'd think you were trying to pull a fast one on him, and there are only a few states that allow beaver to be trapped. To sell the pelts, even if you could, you'd have to take out licenses in each of those states." "Those mastodon carry a lot of ivory.